Despite Kody blaming pretty much everyone else for this, we've been watching him tear the entire family apart over the last few years, and now it looks like he might have ruined everything for good, and you'll never believe what he did. So recently, Sister Wives posted a short deleted scene from one of the most recent episodes on their Facebook, and the clip showed Kody complaining about everything again, and he's been doing this whole season, so the deleted scene didn't exactly come as a surprise, but there was one thing he said that I thought was really interesting because it said a lot about Kody and his attitude. So in the scene, Kody says he's still smarting from this whole thing with Christine, and he says that he hasn't even defined it yet, and that he's just been struggling in this place. And he then goes on to say that it's been, a hard couple of months, and that there's just been so much distance, woe, and separation. And he also admits that he's been finding it hard to engage with everyone, even his kids. And I honestly thought that this whole thing was kind of hilarious because, he's just sitting there feeling sorry for himself, but it seems like he doesn't even know why. And the whole thing about not feeling like engaging with his kids is just insane to me. These are his kids. And at this point in the show, he only has a few more months of living in the same town as Isabel and Truly, since they will be moving, away pretty soon. And he knows that, and he's even complained about it before, but instead of trying to spend time with them, he's apparently too upset to even go talk to them. It's just ridiculous, and he's complained about everything and everyone, and he was annoyed at Isabel for wanting to go to school instead of staying at home so that he could see her, and he acted like Christine taking Truly with her to Utah was the worst thing that could possibly happen, and he's blamed Christine and, to some extent, Isabel for ruining their whole family dynamic. But then he says that he can't be bothered to actually engage with anyone. How does he not see the irony in all this? He wants to blame everyone else for all the problems, but it's now become more obvious than ever that it's him who's at the center of most of the family issues. And Christine wouldn't be leaving if it wasn't for him and how he's treated her over the last however many years. And this whole thing would be funny if it wasn't so depressing for everyone else. And I also thought it was ironic that he kept going on and on about how he felt isolated and upset, but that's how Christine's been feeling for years. But I feel like he still refuses to see that because he's only ever thinking about himself. And I saw someone on Reddit say that it was clear that Kody was still, feeling a lot of regret, and I completely agree. He'd always go on and on about how if someone was not feeling happy in the family, they could just leave. And he kept telling Christine that she was a bad sister wife and that she was selfish and wanted too much of him, but now that she finally listened to him and decided to leave, he decided now how to handle it. And even though he's been saying things like this for ages at this point, and I think it's obvious that he's, filled with regret at this point, it seems to me like he's definitely still not ready to admit that most of this is probably happening because of him. But it's become clear that this breakup has been, just been difficult on him. And despite everything he said to her, I do think that he did love Christine at one point, and deep down, he probably knows that he's, the one that drove her away. And that's why he's feeling all these emotions that he clearly doesn't know how to process. And I honestly think, though, that he'll never admit this to himself or to anyone else. But like I said, he has this tendency to blame everyone else, but it's never his fault, which is just hilarious because in my opinion, it does look like it is all his fault, and he's the one that's been tearing the whole family apart. And just look at the way he's treated Christine. He's clearly super upset about her leaving him, but what choice did she have? He kept telling her that she was a bad sister wife, and he found it annoying when she would ask for his affection, and he didn't want to listen to her, and he didn't want to be intimate with her either. And Robin didn't help things either because it's been obvious for ages that she's Kody's favorite wife. But what made all of this worse was that both she and Kody would always complain about how Christine was mean to her. And given all this, you'd think that both Kody and Robin would be ecstatic that Christine decided to leave. All they've done is complain about her, but no, they're acting like this is the worst thing that's ever happened to them and the family, and like it's all Christine's fault. But I find it hilarious that they seem seemingly don't realize that they were the ones that drove Christine away in the first place. And in my opinion, they ruined this family, but now they don't want to admit it. And honestly, it's all just extremely ironic. And this whole thing goes beyond Christine too, because Kody also likes to complain about his kids and their choices. And he was annoyed at some of them for not respecting his insane COVID rules, but it goes, so beyond that. I mean, he seems to think that his kids are the ones to blame for how their relationship turned out, and he's always complaining about how they don't show him any respect. But why would they? I mean, just because he's their father? I mean, that's obviously not how it works, and I feel like he's never been a super present dad, and it makes sense that some of his kids got fed up with him, and it's not their fault, in my opinion, and it's so obviously Kody's fault. I mean, like I said, he constantly wants to place the blame on everyone else as though he wasn't the common denominator in every aspect of the family falling apart. He's the person involved in all this, yet somehow in his eyes, it's never his fault, and it's literally everyone else that's the problem, but not him. And what I find kind of funny though is that it's not like Kody is completely clueless. He probably just prefers to act this way, but I know he knows what the problem here is. And when one person booked a cameo from Kody, he talked about the pandemic and all the rules, and he actually admitted to some pretty crazy things. He said that he was struggling with this whole thing and that he didn't know what to say about it anymore, but the most shocking thing he said was when he wondered if his cure had been worse than the disease, and he then immediately said that he probably shouldn't be second guessing himself. But I thought this was interesting because it seemed like he basically admitted that he knew that his rules drove the family apart, and so he at least seems to have some self-awareness. But at the same time, he made another cameo that I thought was pretty much the opposite of the other one, and one person asked him for marriage advice, and what Kody had to say was actually insane. He said that it was important to be sincere, loyal, and to talk, and he said that it was important to talk about every little issue and not to let any little issue go unheard, and that's honestly pretty good advice, but it sounds so weird coming from Kody, and this is the same person that seemingly never wanted to listen to Christine talk about her issues, and so much so that it caused their marriage to fall apart. And I mean, maybe he realized that this was one of the things that went wrong in their relationship, but I just thought it was really bizarre hearing Kody, of all people, say all that. I mean, maybe he's grown and realized that he needed to change if he wanted the family not to fall apart completely, but at this point I feel like it might be too late, and that the whole thing might be ruined for good. But what do you guys think? Do you agree that Kody should stop blaming everyone else for his problems? Let me know in the comments.